Hey guys, what's going on? And welcome to today's video. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel down below. If you're not new here, welcome back. And in today's video, guys, we're going to be talking about how I struggled with being overweight for over than 10 years. And when I shifted this, I was able to finally let go of 65 pounds. Never struggled with that weight ever again. You might be wondering, what in the world have you drawn behind me, Charles? And I'll explain this to you because it is the reason why most people stay at the weight that they're at, and they are struggling to break out of that plateau and struggling to lose the weight and maintain and sustain that result in their body weight. And that's because we all have an internal thermostat, whether that's for our finances, our relationships, or our health, to our physical body weight. We're going to focus on our physical body weight, but if you understand this, it's energy, so you can apply it to literally all of those three aspects that I just talked about. And the reason as to why most people stay stuck in this is because, right, I'm in a room right now. You're probably in a room watching this on your computer or on a phone screen somewhere, and there's a temperature in the room, right? And so just as the thermostat that's on the wall that's controlling the temperature in the room, well, you have your own internal thermostat for your physical body weight. That's why we're going to call this the physical body weight thermostat. Pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory, but it's just we're going to angle and we're going to direct the thermostat to what it is that we actually want to change. Now, you might be wondering, Charles, well, we're not going to change our temperature. You haven't changed your temperature. No, what you actually want to change here is, like we said, your body weight. So for example, I'll use myself, right? When I was overweight, I wanted to be leaner, right? Don't we all want to be skinnier, want to let go of the extra weight? And so I was at 285 pounds. That was my reality for a good majority of my life, always being the overweight friend. And so that was my normal. That was my status quo. That's where I was set at because that's the experience that I lived out for a few years. Now, this is the normal temperature, right? This is what you're programmed at. This is what it is programmed at. Now, what happens is we have this over on the top. And this, for the sake of the example, I'm going to write 325 pounds. Because you're like, oh my God, what is this? Well, I was already overweight, but this was normal for me. That was just my baseline. That's where I sat. That's where I was comfortable. That's where, like, you're in a room right now. If you're comfortable in the temperature that the room is in, well, you're comfortable. So it was normal. Here, the 325 pounds, that was my overweight. So this would be the equivalent of heat. If we were to turn it on, right? If you put Fahrenheit, or Celsius, you would crank it up and it would go up to 325. So what did I need to do? Is because we all have our baseline, right? So it's going to go like this. And then what's going to happen is your set point is here, right? This is your set point. You all have an internal set point of however long you've been at the weight you are right now that you see on the scale. That's where you're at. And what happens with your overweight story? Well, that's if it gets even bigger, right? If there's more heat that's there and you gain weight, well, what's going to happen is that weight will go up. Now, whenever my weight would go up a little, well, what would happen is your body naturally, just like the thermostat, it would crank the AC on, it would get colder, and what would it do? Well, it would start dragging it back down to getting back to baseline here at 285. And so you see just an up and down to get right back here, take all of this away, and I would be right back to 285. Now, we don't want to get bigger. It might happen, but that's not necessarily what you want to happen. Now, in order to know this, well, here we're going to put 225 pounds because that's what I want it to be. But that was my lean story. This was the lean version of me. So this was cold. So this would be less Fahrenheit or Celsius. So what happened? Well, I wasn't shifted. We were adjusting the room, but the temperature's always going to come back. So if I'm here and I'm at 285 and I start dropping my weight, well, what's my body going to do? It's going to test me because it's not used to going down towards this temperature. It wants to remain at 285 because it's programmed at 285. The thermostat is set at 285. And so what is it going to do? Well, it's going to test me and it's going to crank the heat. Why? Because it wants to get back to baseline, because its only job, your brain's job, is to keep you safe in what's familiar. And what's familiar is comfortable, and what's comfortable means that it can guarantee your survival. It only wants to survive. So we have to shift the set point because it'll test me. So I'll start eating more junk food. I'll start moving less. It's as simple as you start walking less and you start to sit down more. Unconsciously, you're not going to be aware of it. Why? Because it is trying to consume as little energy as possible to get yourself back at baseline. Now, the way that we shift this is you have to not make it as much of a gap, and we have to flip this. So the way that we change, I'm going to, like right here, I'll just draw another one, right? We'll draw another thermostat right here. Sometimes my drawings are crazy, but we just have to go and we have to change these. Because if you change these and you change the way you're programmed, it'll change everything. So here, for example, this has to become 285 pounds. This becomes 200 pounds. And this will become, for the sake of this video, 240 pounds, because it's somewhere in the middle. And so therefore, when you shift this, can you see how it'll change? Because you're no longer like, this is no longer tolerable. Like, you can't tolerate this. It's not acceptable, right? Because you no longer want to be that. But what happens? Well, in order for you to crank down your body weight, you're going to have to change the way that you use the energy. I blanked there for some reason. But what happens is, because if you're used to 285, well, now this is your overweight story. So we got to get it down to 240. So I'll erase this because I don't want it to be confusing in the visual aspect of it. So then it changes everything, because your baseline is here, right? And then what happens is you'll start moving more. You'll start planning your meals. You'll start eating nutritiously, whole foods. What's going to happen? Well, it's going to drop. And then naturally, well, that's shifted here at 240. So you hit baseline. And so this is change. But gradually, that's what you have to do. Because if not, you have to align with the version of yourself, but you got to crank the AC on. It's got to be colder, because if not, you're going to go up. It's the same thing, but you just have to change the temperature. And in order to change the temperature of where it is that you're at, well, what do you have to do? You have to go up to the wall, and you either click this arrow. That's a crazy arrow drawing. I apologize for that, but you get the point. You either do this up or down. You're the one that's going to choose in how the way it's going to reflect. It's a thermostat. If you click here, it'll turn up, it'll turn on the heat, and it'll gain in the measurement you want to choose. Weight, here would be the AC, well, the Fahrenheit or Celsius. If you turn it down, well, it'll crank the AC. It'll crank the AC on. The temperature will lower. Your body weight will lower. And so the way you do this is you have to align. You got to change. And the way that you're able to shift the set point, well, okay, we're going to go to that, right? Remember, we got the physical body weight thermostat. And the way that you do this, well, is because you have to create then what is the temperature that you want to be at. So for example, I was at 285 and I wanted to get to 225. Well, not the same temperature, not at all, right? So my baseline was maybe somewhere around the middle at 240. Okay, well, what was I doing that was making me this weight? Well, I was I was eating junk food multiple times per week. No working out. No daily steps. And just no plan whatsoever. Just going about every day, eating whatever I want. That's what was being programmed. Because every time I do one of these things, well, what would happen is I would be unconsciously clicking that up arrow. So this was a set point, but I kept here, so I upped the set point. Now, this is where I was, and I wanted to shift towards 240. I wanted to bring it. That's the temperature I chose. Well, naturally, I stopped doing this, and I will do what lowers the temperature. Now, it's as simple, it is just the opposite. You do less of this and more of this. Now, we just have to find the opposite. And if you ask yourself, oh, I don't know how to do that. Well, what don't you want anymore? I don't want it to be 285. Okay, so what am I doing at 285 pounds? Well, I'm doing all of these things. Okay, what's the opposite of eating junk food? Okay, well, it's gonna be whole foods. Okay, got it. Bet, makes sense. Solid. Okay, no working out. Okay, 4 to 5 workouts per week. Okay, oh damn. Okay, we got some direction. We're flowing now. We see where we're going. No daily steps. Okay, well, if I barely have any daily steps, I'm not going to jump to 10K. I'm never going to hit it. So I'm going to hit a goal of 6 to 7K steps per day. Boom. Okay, the opposite. No plan. A plan. I'm going to find a plan. Makes sense. Solid. And eating whatever. Discipline. In my eating. And so, do you see now we have complete, the one thing that we have here is we have clarity. Because you always have, you've just chosen not to look at it clearly, because if you looked at it clearly, you would get unstuck and you would change the temperature. So this all happens unconsciously. And so what goes on here? Well, boom, boom, boom. And I'm clicking this button every time I do one of these things. Boom, boom, boom. And it's getting me, it's lowering the temperature. I'm dropping body weight. I'm letting go of the excess of energy that I'm holding on to here. Why? Because I've shifted the temperature inside of the thermostat, and it is going down to my goal of 225 pounds. And then this is where it always adjusts and it always shifts, because once you get to 240, well, you're gonna have to adjust, right? Your AC, if you're trying to get it down to 15 degrees Celsius and it's 28 degrees outside, well, it'll have to crank a lot of cold air in order for it to get to 15. It's normal. That's how it works. It's the same thing for your body, but this all happens unconsciously. So instead of focusing on what you've been doing, because that's where the thermostat is set at, well, now that you have all the keys and all the tools, you look at this clearly, you got to hit the down arrow if you want to drop your body weight. And well, this was focused on how to change your body weight thermostat to drop body weight, but you could apply the same thing to gain the weight that you wanted if that was your goal, but that's not the purpose of this video. So that covers it all. Physical body weight thermostat. Apply this. If you, I appreciate you taking the time with me and watching this. Leave a like down below. Comment any questions, what really stood out for you. If you got any questions for me, leave them down below. Subscribe to the channel for more videos coming, guys. And have a great day, my friends. And as always, keep making yesterday jealous.